So life and death. Those are true things. And those are things we got to struggle with, we got to deal with. And life and death, a lot of times they rob us of all peace. Life and death, they're matters of confrontation for our soul and our minds and our spirits and our entire lives. And so life and death is something that robs us so many times of peace. Is anybody feeling robbed of peace as we look at what's going on around us nowadays? Maybe a couple folks. I know I do. Right? And peace is something we're going to start a new series on starting today. Peace. Let peace begin with me. If you're expecting peace to take place and you to gain peace from everything around you, you're a fool. It ain't going to work that way. Peace has to come from within. To that point, let me share a story. I love stories. A lawyer was duck hunting in Montana. He climbed over a fence to retrieve a duck he had just shot. Well, just when he was climbing over the fence, a farmer pulled up in his pickup truck and said, "What you doing, son?" "I'm retrieving that duck I just shot," the lawyer said. "Well, that duck's on my side of the fence, so now that duck's mine." The hunter said, "Don't you know who you're talking to? I am a world-renowned attorney. If you don't let me get that duck, I will sue you for your house, your farm, your truck, and I will leave you absolutely penniless." Well, the hunter sneered, "I don't really care who you are, where you're from, or what you're going to do. Because here in Montana, the only law we go by is the 3 kicks law." You guys heard of the 3 kicks law? No? I hadn't either. The 3 kicks law. He said, "I never heard of it," the attorney said. Well, the farmer said, "Well, I get to kick you 3 times. And then if you can get up and kick me back 3 times, then that duck or whatever's on my property, it's yours." Well, the lawyer thought this over. He had grown up in a real tough neighborhood. He'd been in some scraps growing up. He looked up and down this old farmer. He said, "I think I can take this guy." She said, "All right, we're on." He had no longer said, "You're on," then that farmer reeled back and just kicked him hard in the shin. Well, as that attorney was bending over, the farmer then kicked him straight across the face. As soon as the attorney went down on the ground, the farmer reared back again and kicked him right in the rib cage. Well, after struggling to his feet and gasping for breath and finally getting back up, the old attorney said, "All right, it's my turn." And the farmer said, "No, that's all right. You can have the duck." Now, it's embarrassing to say, but a whole lot of us, we love to see 2 people or 2 sides duke it out, don't we? We watch daytime talk shows, or we watch cable news channels, or we listen to talk radio as they all choreograph a steady stream of people who are devolving into harsh confrontations and conflicts. I mean, even the best Judge Judys are the ones where the litigants are harsh, they're outspoken, they have bad attitudes, only to see good old Judge Judy put them right in their place. Am I right? I got some Judge Judy fans out there. I know I got one right there. I got 2, all right. And I'll admit it, I love movies with great fight scenes. Okay, I got a few people with me, all right? I mean, I love movies like Rocky, the first 3 especially, maybe 4 even too, okay? And I love Pearl Rider, Clint Eastwood, Saving Private Ryan, Lord of the Rings, Braveheart. I even loved The Karate Kid back in the day. Yeah. And now give me some Jason Bourne movies. Anybody else in the house? 1. All right. I'm with you there, Chris. And these are all fictional stories. And I always cheer when the good guy's just pounding down the bad guy. Anybody else? Okay, maybe 4 of us. All right, cool. The rest of y'all are evil. But there's another movie I really like, and it's called Gladiator. And Gladiator does something special. It captures our human desire to be entertained by violence and conflict. You know, because the movie is set back in the Roman era, back in the Colosseum era. And what it does is it sets Maximus, who becomes a gladiator, who is repeatedly forced to fight for the death and to the death. All for the entertainment of a paying audience. One time, after Maximus fights and absolutely decimates many opponents. He just killed all of them unabashedly. As soon as the last one drops, he turns and looks at the crowd. He says, "Are you not entertained?" And in one statement, Maximus could be telling us and asking us the same exact thing in the 21st century. I mean, think, with all the violence we pay to watch and experience, are we not entertained? Violence entertains and stimulates us, if we get real honest about it, doesn't it? I mean, action films, video games, news clips that are full of violence always captures the most viewings regardless of the media channel. We talk about peace. Every stupid celebrity award show, and they're going on and on about how we all want world peace. I mean, there's even talk about John Lennon's song, Imagine, the Ode to World Peace, becoming our new national anthem. Seriously? Seriously, y'all. But honestly, don't we all dream of a day when we'll no longer be worried about rogue nations building nuclear weapons? Don't we all dream of a day when terrorists or lone gunmen no longer wreak havoc in our cities, in our workplaces, in our schools? Don't we all dream of a day when our children or grandchildren will not be sent off to war? Don't we all dream of a day when innocent people are no longer killed or mistreated and then strewn all over the evening news? We all dream of those things, but then why? Why do we fork over billions, if not trillions of dollars worldwide for movies and music and video games and other media that celebrate and glorify violence and bloodshed? We are now, in 2020, we're murdering and raping and abusing and even selling one another on our streets and in our neighborhoods. We are looting and burning entire city blocks, all to destroy the old, bad capitalist system and build an entirely new socialist or Marxist, peaceful utopia, right? Yeah, right. It's like the world just keeps getting older, but mankind is definitely not growing up, definitely not maturing, and definitely not getting any better. Technology continues to advance dramatically. But us humans, we still have the exact same bloodthirsty nature about us. Yeah, we talk about we're postmodern and we're enlightened. We're ready to embrace peace. The truth is, we're just as entertained and we're just as drawn to violence, well, as any generation that's come before us. You don't believe me? Go home, watch cable news for about 15 to 20 minutes this afternoon. Still don't believe me? Think back. How many traffic backups have you been in that are solely the result of every single driver in that long line ahead of you coming up to the accident sign, stopping or slowing down just so they can rubberneck to see if they can catch just a glimpse of the blood and the gore? We're some sick people, aren't we? Why are we so attracted to that? Are we seeing the irony? We say we want peace, but that's the way we behave. Are we seeing the just tragic irony that we have? And you see, when sin entered the world through Adam and Eve, violence entered the world too. And shortly afterwards, Cain killed his own brother Abel. And mankind's capacity for evil, well, it was on full display from that point forward. I mean, this horrific act proved we will kill our own flesh and blood. We will kill our own brother, our own sibling, we'll kill our own family member just to prove and make a point. Jesus, God incarnate, the Christ, oh my, he was a peacemaker of all peacemakers. And have you ever really stopped to think about how really radical and really countercultural especially right now, the idea of peace is? Let's unpack a little bit of how Jesus Christ thought about and talked about peace. Jesus said if somebody punches you in the face, you're supposed to turn the cheek and say, go ahead, take another shot. Jesus said, love the people that hate you. And there's so much of that going on social media right now. Whew, so much love I see and hear. Oh, cable news, full of Christians showing love. It says, love your enemies. Our world's rife with loving our enemies. Forgive everyone is what Jesus says. That's some pretty radical stuff. Huh? You want to be radical? Do what Jesus tells us to do instead of what we choose to do as Christians. In fact, he don't just say it. He actually follows up on it. When men came to arrest Jesus, what Peter pulled out a sword, cut off one of those dude's ears. Jesus immediately went, picked it up, miraculously healed it, and he turned around to Peter and said, violent men die violent deaths. Right on the spot. So do you and I do we really want peace? If you do, and if you need some, let's turn together to Romans chapter 12. Turn with me, or check out Romans chapter 12, please. Verses 17 and 18. And it reads, neither pay back evil for evil to anyone. Do things in such a way that everyone can see you are honorable. Do your part to live in peace with everyone as much as possible. So I want us to camp out for a couple seconds on that part. Do your part to live in peace. Do your part to live in peace. You know, Jeff Foxworthy tells a story about walking in the front door and seeing crayon writing all over the wall of his house. He immediately asks his 2-year-old daughter, who did it? She tells him, Daddy, the dog did it. Foxworthy said, now I know my sweet, precious little angel of a girl could never lie to me. And we've had that dog now for almost 10 years, and we're just now finding out our family pet can stand up on 2 legs and draw with crayons all over the wall. When the truth is, that little 2-year-old already knew how to lie. And already knew the phrase, basically, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. And isn't that precisely what we do and who we are at whatever age we are? It's not my fault. I can't help it. Anybody say that recently? Not me. I didn't do it. And many, if not most of us, have never grown out of that 2-year-old reflection. With do your part, God is saying, I know you don't think it's your fault, but I'm going to ask you anyway. When are you going to start accepting responsibility for the condition of your life right now? The condition of your family, your job, your school, and your community? That's what God's asking us. I mean, come on. A woman burns her lap with hot coffee, pulling out a drive-thru, and she blames the restaurant. Really? Your grandchildren, or they run around like crazy, have no respect for authority figures, have no manners, and you blame television or video games or the school system. Really? People have zero personal responsibility nowadays. And let me just tell you something. No personal responsibility equals no peace. Because if we want to live in peace, we have to learn to humble ourselves and then take responsibility or our actions. You see, the ugly reality is there will always be fights and chaos and wars and conflicts because people will always blame other people for their issues. I got one light amen on that. Let me say, people will always blame other people for their issues. Amen. That's the truth, isn't it? But here's the thing. You and I, we can have peace regardless of what's happening around us. The Bible tells us, y'all, it's a peace that goes way beyond, far beyond anything we can even understand. But to experience that kind of peace, we have to hear and we've got to respond to what God says. So you've got to do your part. I've got to do my part to live in peace. And are you denying responsibility for your own life? The way things have turned out? The way things are? God says, I know you had it tough growing up. Or when you were sick. Or when you lost your job. Or when your marriage got really tough or it broke up. But you can't deny all responsibility for the way your life has turned out. Because every single human being has responded poorly to the things that have happened to us. Regularly. Guilty. And it's not totally somebody else's fault. You're giving ownership of your life to someone else. When God says, I want ownership of your life. Do you see that? We blame others. This taking personal responsibility is so important because how are you going to get honest with God and give Him all of your stuff, all your burdens, and ask Him to help you with them when you won't even get real and acknowledge what those burdens really are? Because that burden's their fault. That burden's His fault. See where I go? You blaming him and you blaming her and you blaming them for this and that in your life when you need to accept responsibility for your life and your choices and where you are. Yeah, bad things have happened to you. Yeah, life has been terribly unfair to you. But how did you respond? And here's the thing. It's impossible for me to fully give my life to Jesus Christ if I've never owned up to the poor choices and the poor responses and the poor decisions I've made with my life. I can't just give Him the good stuff that I like. I got to give Him everything because that's what He wants, is everything of me. So this verse in Romans is asking us, are you doing everything that you can to live in peace with the people around you? And this is so incredibly important because truth is, us Christians, we don't have a very good reputation for being peaceful people. I see a lot of grins on faces. Y'all know what I'm talking about? And how ironic is that? Because the Jesus we read about, the Jesus we say we follow, He was the ultimate person of peace. But I'm going to tell you something. Following His example will be one of, if not the most difficult thing you will ever do in your life when it comes to being a person of peace. I mean, go ahead. Turn the cheek all week this week. Go ahead. Forgive everyone the way God forgave and continues to forgive you all week this week. Go ahead. Love everyone around you the way that you love yourselves all week this week. That all sounds super easy, doesn't it? But I can guarantee you something. You do this all week and you're going to be so chock full of peace, you won't know what happened in your world and your life. Because that is Jesus Christ, that is God's truth, and God's truth never returns void. Amen. Test Him on it. But you see, Christians, we have committed horrific acts of violence in the name of Jesus Christ. And we're not currently burning people at the stake, or racking or quartering people or eviscerating people for their sin against the church, even though some of y'all would like to do that right about now. But our cynicism, and our bitterness, and our criticism, and our judgments, and our name-calling, Well, all that regularly shows up through us at restaurants and at checkout lines at the store and on our jobs and with family members and when we're driving behind somebody that's slow in the left lane and my God, they won't get out of the way. Oh, did I just say that? Sorry. Some self-disclosure there. But the thing is, if we want peace, we have to learn to treat all people, capital A, capital L, all people, with civility, with respect, and learn to accept everyone exactly where they are, exactly how they are. We're not called to agree with them. Y'all know the distinction. But we are called to accept them exactly where they are. After all, Jesus Christ accepts everyone. Am I right? And Jesus Christ accepted you and he accepted me exactly where we were long before we ever started working things out and he ever started agreeing with the way Dave Murray and maybe some of us started living our lives. So we're called to accept people exactly where they are without agreeing with their choices and their positions and their behaviors. Can y'all see this? People. Let's accept people. Okay? If you want to be peaceful, we got to do our part to live in peace with everyone. Do what Jesus did. Live the way Jesus lived. And we will be doing our part to live in peace. Secondly, it says live at peace with everyone in Romans 12, those verses. And I hope you get the picture of what Romans 12 is actually painting for us. Everyone. You got to be at peace with God. If you're not at peace with God, you're not going to be at peace with yourself. And if you're not at peace with God and yourself, you're never going to be at peace with other people. You follow that chain of events? You got to be at peace with God before you can be at peace with yourself, before you can ever be at peace with other people. That's the everyone that Paul is unpacking here. And so if we're going to fully turn our lives over to God, we have to take responsibility for our lives. And I will not have peace with God until I claim responsibility for all the mess I've created in my life. I have to recognize, I have to own, and then I have to give all my mess to Him. You see, if this is my life, I couldn't find a black paper towel, which would be more appropriate, a dark one full of sin. This is not my life full of sin. This is my wife, probably, but not my life. But if I'm sitting here and I'm going, that's my mom's blame, she did that, and that's Dad's blame, and then that's Kelly's issue. Oh, and there's Frances, she gets a big one. And then here goes Noel, she did that to me, and Chase, he did that. Well, not that much. He terrified me that night he broke his neck, but anyway. And then this was what happened back in high school, and this is what happened back in college, and then this is what that church did to me, and that's the way that person did me and the way I reacted, so that's their fault. And then, God, I give this to you because this is what I own of my life. All the rest of that's their fault. Can we see that? Before we can ever really have peace with God, we're going to have real, honest conversations with ourselves. We're going to have to bare our souls. And then what we're going to have to do to have real peace with God, we're going to have to take responsibility for everything that we have done, everything we blamed on others, and place it on the altar in front of God to get Him to help us sort it out. Are we seeing this? No matter how hard we try to cover or deny our sinful nature, saying it's their fault, it's her fault, it's the Democrats' fault, it's Trump's fault, it's my parents' fault, it's our culture's fault, it's my ex's fault, it's all that blame game stuff, y'all, it will always come back to bite you. And it will never change who you are. In fact, what? Sin always eventually erupts out of our blame games. And our sin, that sin will just absolutely slam us. Bitterness, resentment, anger, rage, hate, depression, anxiety. That's why it's so important we follow a very simple personal responsibility rule. Y'all got this one? Oh, it's wired today. I've got a leash on. Get ready for this one. This is super duper serious theology here, okay? Y'all ready? Personal responsibility. When you mess up, you fess up.
Amen.
Let me say that again. I know we got Georgetown County people in here, and a few Williamsburg probably. When you mess up, you fess up. That's, believe it or not, where we find peace. Because when we mess up and then we fess up to God and to whoever else we wronged, that's when we give God the opportunity to come and just shower us with His grace. And other people, we recognize that we were wrong. We give them the opportunity to then forgive us. And that, my friends, will expose our sin to God and to other people's grace. When we mess up and then we fess up. As Maddie comes up, I don't know where you are today. I don't know if there's stress in your life, or your life is chock full of anger or anxiety or depression or grief or whatever. I don't know if you're struggling with bitterness and envy. But I can make you this promise. I don't know. God knows. God knows. And God is just waiting to take all this mess, all this pain, all this darkness, all that baggage and all that stuff off of your shoulders. You can have peace that can only be found by experiencing God either for the first time or at new levels in your maturing relationship with Him. So let me ask you, Maddie's going to play. If that's you today, you have no peace because you'll not know peace until you know how to give it to God. Don't leave here today without laying down all your blame that you put on everybody else and everything else. Own it, accept it, give it to God today, and let Him help you work through it. You want peace? He is the King of peace. He is the Prince of peace. And do we need peace in our homes, in our schools, in our communities, in our nation now? Yes. But we can't give away something we don't have.